Hi, 8th grade. This is lesson 3 of module 8, Interpret Linear Data in Context. And the I can statement says, I can use the equation of a line to solve problems in the context of bivariate measurement data, interpreting the slope and intercept. So this one, they go right to the step it out. There's no spark your learning or build understanding. So let's look at this, and then you can pause the video and work on it, and then we'll work through it together. So it says Janelle is making a graph that compares the salaries and ages of the members of the planning department. She lists the salaries by tens of thousands of dollars and ages by years. So you can see here on the graph, the salary is this scale here, the vertical scale, and you can see that age is here, the horizontal scale. So it would be more like the X, and then the salary is the Y. So it says use the graph provided to make a scatter plot using the data in the table. So this is the table that they're talking about here. You're going to graph that data onto this graph here. B, the line y equals 0.36x or 3600ths x minus 6.1 is a trend line for the scatter plot. Add the trend line to the graph. So once you have all this graphed, you'll use this as your trend line. C, complete the interpretation of the slope of the trend line. The slope is what? This means for every 1 year increase in age, there is a salary increase of what? Of 10,000. For every 1 year increase in age, there is a salary increase of what? So go ahead and pause the video here, work on those, and then come back and we'll work on them together. So I plotted the points there just to save time, and I just used these points here from the graph. So your graph should look something like this. So the points on your graph should look similar to this. And so now what we need to do is add the trend line to the graph. There are different ways to do that. You can use the slope. They've given you this line in the slope intercept form, but because the y-intercept is negative and that's not even on the graph, it makes it hard to use that. I think the best way, excuse me, is to find some points using the numbers that you have on the graph. So for example, you have age, it's going in increments of 5, 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on. And the salary is 246, but that's actually 10,000s of dollars. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a table with some points that we can use to plot the trend line, and I'll show you what I did. All right, so I did all my figuring and everything off out of the recording, but I'll explain what I did. So here's the trend line that I created right here in the blue. And what I did was, because this is a negative y-intercept, that means it's going to intersect the y-axis below where the graph is. That wasn't using the slope and y-intercept wasn't really a good way to do it for this one. So what I did is I created a table and I just chose values for x that I knew would keep me in this quadrant. So I picked, you can pick whatever you want, but because this is the scale for age, I chose some of those numbers, and I chose 30 was the one that I wanted to keep it, the y in this quadrant as well. So when I did plugged x30 in for x, I got 3.36 times 30, and then I subtracted 6.1 and I got 4.7. So here's that's this point right here. And what I'll do is I'll do it in a different color. So that's this point here. And then, excuse me, I chose 50 as my other point. I started with 60 and that got me way up here, and that was off the graph as well. Excuse me. And so I plugged in 50 and I got 11.9, and you can see here that's actually one of the points. So I circled that. Let me circle that in green too. So that was already one of the points on the graph. So then using those 2 points, I could draw the trend line connecting those 2 points. And you can see that's a good trend line because it really goes through most of the points and they're fairly close, most of them. So let's look at the next part C, complete the interpretation of the slope of the trend line. So the slope is, we know that that's the slope because of the form of the equation. So the slope is 36 hundredths. This means that for every 1 year increase in age, there is an increase of 36 hundredths of 10,000. And we know that of means times. So for every 1 year increase in age, there is a salary increase. So you would just multiply 36 hundredths times 10,000 and you get $3,600. So for every 1 year increase in age, there is a salary increase of $3,600. So I think it would be good for you to do the turn and talk here, because that is something that really is interesting about this data. Does every older worker make more money than any particular younger worker? And explain your thinking and how you can tell that from the graph and from the data here. So that's the end of this lesson. Go on and finish the on your own and the rest of the lesson, and this is the last lesson of module 8, so I'll see you in module 9.